Hey guys, my name is Tito. I make videos on personal finance on my other channel. On this channel, I talk about other things, like today when I'll be reviewing the new Nollywood film, The Setup 2.
The Setup 2 is the sequel to 2019's The Setup. While Chike works for the US and Nigerian governments as part of her 5-year sentence, she's blackmailed by a terrorist organization to do a job for them that could jeopardize the lives and safety of the people she cares about. The film stars Adesua Etomi-Wellington and Kehinde Bankole, and it's directed by Onuzo.
Now, some housekeeping before we dive into the review. First of all, this will be a spoiler-free review so that I don't ruin the film for those of you who want to go and see it in the cinema, or for those of you who want to watch it on Prime Video when it gets on Prime Video in a couple of months' time. I'll explain why that's a thing further on in this video. Number 2, if you haven't seen the first movie, The Setup 1, I suggest you go and see it first. You know, it's on Netflix right now. I personally hadn't seen it till earlier this week, and I saw it because I really wanted to understand everything that was going on in this sequel, The Setup 2. Number 3, if you were involved in the making of this film, The Setup 2, maybe you were a cast member, or you were a crew member, or a writer, or a producer, or a member of the Inkblot or Anako family, you have two options. Option 1 is that you can take what I say in this review, or any of my reviews for that matter, with a grain of salt, and know that what I'm saying is not to be taken personally. It's not an attack on your person or what you do professionally. I'm just a guy on YouTube who consumed your product and came on YouTube to talk about your product. I'm just sounding off, and I don't speak for everyone else or anyone else other than myself, to be honest. So please, what I say in this review or my other reviews, try not to take it personally. It's not an attack on you or anyone else. So that's option 1. Option 2 is that you can choose to not even watch this review at all. That is an option, because I've realized that no matter how subtle I try and be in these reviews, some people still tend to take things the wrong way. But if you're, a bit sensitive about what you've produced, what you've created, i.e. this movie, then maybe don't watch this review. Okay? All those disclaimers aside, let's talk about the performances in this movie, The Setup 2. Now, there are lots of actors in this film. I'll try and breeze through as many of them as I can, right? Adesua Etomi-Wellington. For those of you who've seen part 1, you remember that at the end of part 1, she, as part of her sentence, once she gets caught, sorry, mild spoiler, she has to work for the US government as, in their anti-terrorism squad or unit or whatever, which for some reason is based in Nigeria. So she's working for them in part 2, right? That's where we pick up as part of her 5-year sentence, I believe. And she's meant to give off this badass kind of agent vibe. Think, Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise's character in Mission Impossible, or 007. So she's meant to be that type of character, but for some reason, I really wasn't feeling it. She did all the faces. Adesua is a great actress, first of all. Let's establish that. But for some reason in this film, I wasn't getting action hero vibes from her as much as she tried to pull off that persona and do the faces and crack the jokes. It wasn't giving for me. I didn't feel like if I was in trouble, like I'd be confident that Adesua's character Chike would be able to save me, I mean, we've seen American films like Salt back in the day when Angelina Jolie used to do those action movies, or Charlize Theron more recently and her action movies, maybe like Mad Max and whatnot. We've seen women or female characters who are heroes in the film, and we feel like they can actually pull it off. They can go toe-to-toe with the bad guys, right? And it's quite convincing. So I know how I was meant to feel, but I just wasn't feeling it when I was watching Adesua play this character Chike in this film, The Setup 2. Now, Isime played Uzi, like a rival in the film, and she went to the same training institution that Adesua and Kehinde's characters went to, right? And there's a bit of a history with all of them, kind of. But basically, in terms of her performance, Nancy actually did well. I got the badass vibe from Nancy's performance, and I think it's kind of because Nancy goes to the gym a lot in real life. If you follow her on Instagram, you'll know this. And I think that physical element of her life, she really brought it to bear, or came in very handy in this movie, The Setup 2. Funny enough, Nancy is on fire right now. Also on Friday, the same day that The Setup 2 came out, she had a film come out on Netflix, The Raz Guy. And I think next week or in 2 weeks' time, she has Obara'm coming out as well. So it's Nancy Isime's season. But basically, Nancy's performance was, I think, one of the better ones in this film. Kehinde Bankole plays Grace, Adesua's character's like adopted sister from the first film. And if you remember, or if you've seen the first film, they went their separate ways. They're reunited for a particular reason in this film. And the performance was okay. Her physical acting too wasn't bad. There was a scene where Nancy like body slams Kehinde's character, and that looked quite impressive, right? But the real issue I had with Kehinde's character is the fact that her reaction to certain things that happened to her didn't seem authentic. There's a major turning point. I think, well, the second time that we see Nancy Isime in this film, she has an interaction with Kehinde's character, and something very key happens in that scene, and Kehinde's reaction just didn't seem authentic to that scene. And I don't think it was a fault of Kehinde or her acting. I think it was an issue with the directing, because if the director required or asked for more emotion in that scene, Kehinde would have delivered. So yeah, that scene really did rub me the wrong way. Plus, I just felt like that character, Kehinde's character, Grace, she got the short end of the stick in this film for some reason. She felt way less relevant than she should have been. Now, real quick, Stan Nze was in the film. Stan played Obiora, Adesua's character's new partner in the film, right? They go on missions together, and he's meant to keep an eye on her to make sure she doesn't step out of line. Then there was Jim Iyke. Jim Iyke plays Edem, who's one of the characters from the first movie. Now, in this movie, he's the go-between between the good guys and the bad guys. He links Adesua's character with the bad guys, essentially, okay? So, and he was pleasant to see. Jim Iyke always brings something different to all of his roles or his performances, so he was a bit enjoyable in the film. Blossom Chukwujekwu was in the film as well. He played Macintosh, like a kingpin in the film. I think I've seen Blossom play more menacing roles. He didn't come off as very scary. He was eccentric, had a tattoo on his face, was meant to have a very strong Igbo accent. But I think a lot more could have been done with Blossom's character, especially seeing as Blossom is such a great actor. Chris Attoh was also in the film. Kate Henshaw plays Teju. She's like the director of this secret service or organization that Stan and Adesua's character work for. Most of the time, she's just standing around looking upset, looking very angry, and, you know, giving orders left, right, and center. She reminded me of the character she played in Blood Sisters a couple of months ago. Uzor Arukwe was also in the film. He was in the first movie as, you know, a pastor, if you remember, who they tried to set up. But eventually, I think Kehinde Bankole's character, Grace, falls in love with Uzor's character. And, you know, he's back in this film, and there's something there between Kehinde's character and Uzor's character. I'll just leave it at that. What I liked seeing Nancy Isime in those bodysuits. She looked good. What I didn't like, the fight scenes or the action scenes in this film, they didn't give what they were meant to give, in my opinion. And I saw the effort they put into it. You know, I saw the stunt guys, I saw some BTS on, you know, some of the actors' Insta stories of them practicing and, you know, trying to put in the work to make those action scenes and those fight scenes believable. But watching it on screen, it just didn't really feel believable for some reason. Aside from that scene with Kehinde Bankole's character and Nancy Isime's character, where Nancy like body slams her. Even at that, she body slams her on a bunch of pillows. But that was the only time that I believed anything particularly or remotely physical in this film. The second thing I didn't like was the fact that so many things in this film were quite unrealistic. Case in point, there's a part where a child gets abducted right in front of the guardians of that child, and the parents don't put up much of a fight, you know, for the child, and they don't seem that distraught or angry or upset seeing their child being taken away from them. And it just felt very unnatural, both in a realistic, like in a real life sense, and even in movies. In movies, when a child is abducted, you see tears, you see wailing, you see all kinds of emotions, but in that scene we didn't get that. Another unrealistic element in this film was a part where one of the villains goes to great lengths to get their hands on one character, right? And they eventually get their hands on that character for, you know, the purpose of revenge and whatnot. But they don't off that character. We see the character at the end of the film. Those are just two elements. I mean, there's another scene where there's a scuba diving extraction to grab somebody. There's another skydiving element where, you know, they parachute or they're meant to parachute onto the roof of someone. There are just so many things in this film that were unrealistic, and I was trying very hard to go with it because this week I saw Prey, you know, the new Predator film. Last week I saw The Gray Man, and there are just so many far-fetched things in those American movies that I asked myself that why am I willing to let these things slide with American films, but in Nigerian films or Nollywood films, I always nitpick, or I make an issue of these things. I struggled. I really wanted to get on board with this film and to believe the things that they were showing me in this film, the setup too, but I really, really did struggle. Now, another thing that really irked me in this film or about this film was how 1 minute there are these two sets of people that they're enemies, right? And then the next minute, further on in the film, they're now allies. For example, mild spoiler. When Adesua's character goes to meet Jim Iyke's character, she promises him some money, and they go and perform this job. The job gets botched, so I don't think Jim Iyke's character got the money, the plenty money that Adesua's character promised the guy. Understandable. But then further on in the movie, Jim Iyke's character, Edem, he joins Adesua's character's team. So I'm like, why? What's the rationale? What's his reason for joining their team? And how about the 75 million that he was promised? Did he get that? What happened there? So that was just one aspect or one example of how at the beginning of the film, they're enemies. Then later on in the film, they're now allies. That happened a number of times in this film. And I'm not really mad about it happening. But the reasons for those things happening, they were either not clear or they weren't even given at all, like in the Jim Iyke and Adesua's characters situation. Who should see it? If you saw the setup 1 and you enjoyed it, then you should probably see the sequel, the setup 2, even if it's just for sentimental reasons. Also, if you are a fan of Adesua Etomi-Wellington's, then you should probably see this film as well. She doesn't do that many films per year. I think maybe because she's selective about the roles she takes on, right? So it may be a while before we see her in another film, so you might as well go and watch this one. And if you're a fan of Nancy Isime as well, try and see this film. This role is a bit different from what we've seen Nancy play or roles we've seen Nancy play in the recent past. So I think you'll enjoy it based on that as well, or at least you'll enjoy seeing Nancy. In conclusion, this isn't the thinking man's action film, right? This film will leave you with more questions than answers. The biggest question I was left with after watching this film was, why on earth would somebody go and lay low in Benin Republic after getting everything that they wanted? I mean, they could be anywhere else in the world. Why go to Benin Republic to go and chill out? It didn't make sense to me. Lots of things in this film didn't make sense to me, but hey, whatever. Anyway guys, if you enjoyed this review, please like it by clicking on the like button just underneath the video. You know where it is. And feel free to subscribe to my channel as well by clicking on the red subscribe button. On this channel, I don't just do Nollywood movie reviews, I also talk about relationships. To check out some of my past relationship videos and some of my past Nollywood reviews, you can click the card in the corner of the screen. Now, I don't just have this YouTube channel, I also have another YouTube channel where I talk about personal finance, saving and investing, because those things are very important. To check that channel out, you can check the description box down below for the link to that channel. Also, be sure to come back next week or in 2 weeks' time when I review Nancy Isime's next film, Obara'm, which will be out in cinemas, I think on the 23rd or something like that. Just come back, okay? Don't be a stranger. Thanks for the final time, guys. If you are involved with the making of this film, the setup too, don't take what I said personal. Like I said at the beginning of the film, it's all just bands. I'm just a random guy on YouTube. Not even just a guy, a random guy on YouTube. So don't take what I said personal. Thanks for watching, guys. I will catch you hopefully next week or the week after that. Take care.